All right, good morning, good afternoon. This is 3.6, day 1. Today we're going to be learning to convert between the 4 different types of linear equations. This will be very helpful when you get to linear systems of equations. Okay. So first, the 4 types of linear equations. The first one is going to be your direct variation. Y equals mx. You need the slope to write that. And 0, 0 is your y-intercept, so that's just plus 0. But you need the slope, so you're going to replace this m here. Sorry. All right. Hey, the next one we learned about was that slope-intercept form, meaning we could pull out of there the slope and the y-intercept. So the slope and the y-intercept. You need the slope and you need the y-intercept. Okay, the next one was your standard form, ax plus by equals c. We actually can't write that given information, but we can change it to that. And then the last one is going to be our point slope form. Point slope form is going to be y minus y sub 1 equals the slope times the quantity x minus x sub 1. All you need for this is you need a point, x and y, just any point on the line, and then you also need the slope of that line. And you could replace the m and then the x from here and the y from here. Okay. So we're going to be starting to convert between linear equations. Determine which equation form is easiest to write an equation in. Convert between direct variation, slope-intercept form, standard form, and point-slope form of linear equations. Okay, what equation to start with? From slope and a point, you can substitute the slope m and the coordinates of the point in y minus y or point slope form right here. So from slope and y-intercept, so substitute the slope m and y-intercept b in y equals mx plus b. And direct variation, you would still have 0 here. Remember our rise over run. If we have our writing from a graph, you're going to find the y-intercept b and the slope m from the graph, and then substitute the slope and the y-intercept in a y equals mx plus b form. From 2 points, you can use the coordinates of the points to find the slope, and then you can substitute the slope and the coordinates, and one of the coordinates, doesn't have to be both of them, back into your equation here. Okay, so you would have to find that. And I would take a picture of this, meaning like what equation to start with when you're writing a linear equation. If you're given, the point or a point and the slope, you can just write this equation. If you're given the slope and the y-intercept, you can do this same thing. Just write this equation. Anyway, from a table, again, I would use whatever you're comfortable with, whichever one, but depending on what they're asking for. But use the coordinates and 2 of the points and find the slope and then substitute the slope and the coordinates of one of the points in this form. All right. So if a line passes through -1, 2 and has a slope of -1 over 2, we're going to start with our point slope form. And if you can imagine, we're going to be able to find a point from it and find the slope from it. So here is my slope. M is always my slope, and then y and x here are going to be replaced with what my point is. So here, this one is my x, this is my y. I'm going to replace my x, and I should have colored them different, but I'm going to replace my x here with this x here. And then this y goes right here. All right. So it would turn into y minus 2. I'm just going to replace with that with what the y is, and it's a positive 2. So it gets replaced. So I'm going to replace the m. It gives me the slope is negative 1/2. It's going to replace the m. It's going to now be negative 1/2. Y minus whatever the y is here. So y minus 2, and then x minus a negative. So minus a negative turns into adding. So x plus 1. If you had it like x minus a negative 1, I don't necessarily think that would be counted wrong, but you should change it to adding a positive. Okay, if it passes through here, this point with a slope of 0, if you see, you have the y-intercept. Remember 0 comma a number. That would be the y-intercept. So I would just put in what 6 is for here, and then my slope is going to be replaced with my m, or my m is going to be replaced with my slope. Okay. Now it passes through the point here with a slope of negative 1/2. All you're going to do is replace in that direct variation, you're going to replace negative 1/2 with your m. Other way around, m with your negative 1/2. And this is your final here. Remember, you can stop or if I go too fast. Okay. Now I have a table. I can choose point slope form because all right, guys, I paused it. Sorry. I'm just going to start at the beginning here with writing an equation from a table. You should use point slope form where you can use this is 1 point, this is 1 point. You could use any one of those points. Here we chose 13 or 1, 13. The x comes first. So the 1 gets replaced with this x here, and then the y gets replaced here. It's x minus 1, y minus 13. Then we find the slope or the rate of change. So 9, 9, 9 is the change here. 1, 1, 1 is the change here. So our slope is 9 over 1, or 9. Okay, and then from 2 points, we see that one of the points is 0, 0, so it goes through the origin. So we can just use direct variation. So y divided by x, so 2 over negative 1, and it would be a negative 2. So it would be y equals negative 2x. Okay, again, you can also, with 2 points, use slope-intercept form. You need the slope and the y-intercept. Here we are given the y-intercept. So we need to find the slope between the two. We're going to subtract the y's. So negative 2 minus a negative 3. Negative 2 minus a negative 3. This turns into adding a positive. That means negative 2. There we go. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. And then the x's I'm going to subtract. I'm going to start with the same point. 4 minus 0. 4 minus 0 is just 4. So my slope is 1/4. And so I would just write 1/4 x. And then I put in my y-intercept, or the b is negative 3. So it goes y equals 1/4 x minus 3. Okay. Here we don't have the y-intercept. We have just 2 points. So I would use point slope because you have a point and you can find the slope from 2 points. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the slope. 2 minus a negative 10. Again, this turns into adding a positive, which becomes 12, and then negative 1 minus 5. I like to go add a negative. So they're both negative, so I add them together and they stay negative. So I have a negative 6. So 12 divided by a negative 6 equals negative 2. And then I can take one of my points, we chose negative 1, 2, and I'm just going to replace it. X minus negative 1 turns to a positive 1. And then y minus 2, and I'm going to replace my m with the negative 2, which was my slope up here. All right, from a graph, we see that it's direct variation. So we are going to start at the origin and go from one point to the next. We see there's a point here and obviously 0, 0. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. So 3 is my top number, and I'm going to go to the right 1. So my slope is 3, so it's y equals 3x. Okay, again, we have a line. We can choose this. We can see that the y-intercept is at 3, so that's where I get this 3 from. Okay, let me get a highlighter. So y-intercept, that's this 3. Okay, and then how many do I go up? I go up 1, 2, that's my top number, over to the right 1, 2, 3, that's my bottom number, and that's my slope. So my equation is y equals 2/3 x plus 3. Okay, I don't on this graph see my y-intercept, but I do have 2 points. So again, I can use my point slope because I have a point and I can find the slope from the graph. So if I go down 1, 2, 3, that's a -3. This down 3 is a -3. And if I go to the right 1, that's where my 1 comes in, that reduces down to just -3. And that -3 gets placed right here in point slope form. Okay, then I have my point, and I'm going to put in 1 for x and 5 for y. So y minus the y part, which is the 5, x minus the x, which is 1. I guess I could have changed those colors a little bit. There we go. All right, your assignment is page, this is wrong on here. The assignment that we are going to be doing is 1 through 5, 7, 17, 18, 21, 22, 24. We're going to do all the point slope form today. So I will change this right now. And 25 numbers 1 through 5, 7, 17, 18, 21 through 22, and 24. Oh. And just do the point slope form today.